Florence, Italy, 1503. Leonardo da Vinci begins work on a portrait commissioned by a wealthy silk merchant for his wife. But it is a painting he will never part with, obsessing over every detail for what would be the last 16 years of his life. The Mona Lisa.
It is only a portrait, and yet it seems to have dimensions and mysteries that have yet to be explained.
The Mona Lisa's smile is not the kind of smile that we tend to see in portraits. She seems to know something that we don't.
What starts as a portrait, a representation of a woman, turns into something quite different. It turns into a kind of philosophical meditation on all his intellectual concerns.
What was it about the Mona Lisa that would so consume the final years of Leonardo da Vinci's life? And why would he dedicate so much of his time to a single 20 by 30-inch portrait?
There are a lot of theories that Leonardo has secret symbols and secret messages in his paintings. Everything he's doing, he's rethinking even traditional subjects from the very beginning and really imagining them in new and creative ways.
All his life, Leonardo da Vinci incorporated a technique called mirror writing. Is it possible that he also used a similar technique in his artwork, leaving hidden messages that can only be revealed with the use of mirrors?
The mirror writing is something which defines him. And so the possibility that he was also using the mirror as an unknown dimension, whereby he needs to have the mirror to see certain things within his paintings, is definitely something which I think we need to explore.
At Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, graphic designer Terrence Mason uses computer technology to search for hidden messages in Leonardo's masterworks.
We know that he was insatiably curious about reflections and refractions and optics and the human anatomy of the eye and how that mirrored reflections of conical-shaped mirrors.
Is it possible that Leonardo applied his mirror technique to hide secret messages in the Mona Lisa? But if so, why?
So our classic Mona Lisa, Leonardo's portraiture always had very dramatic hand positioning. His hand position was a clue to the access points of rotation of these mirrored angles. So if we try this, what do we see?
Is this helmet-shaped creature simply the product of a parlor trick? If so, then why can a similar creature be seen in another famous painting by Da Vinci, Virgin and Child with St. Anne?
Well, this painting, Virgin of the Rocks, we always notice the dramatic hand poses of Leonardo. Is that giving us a hint about where to put the reflective plane? So we're in a 3D environment here. We can do anything we want. We just make a little duplicate. Come in a little closer. That's a little spooky. So interesting similarity to what we did with the Mona Lisa, right? We've got something close to modern understanding of alien heads.
Val Camonica, Italy, June 13th, 2019. Ancient astronaut theorist William Henry has traveled to this UNESCO World Heritage Site 165 miles from Mount Musinay to investigate what he believes could be forensic evidence that the early civilizations of this region came into contact with extraterrestrials.
Hi, I'm William.
Hi, I'm Luca. Nice to meet you.
Joining him is Luca Giarelli, the head of the Val Camonica Historical and Anthropological Society. Luca has spent years studying this mysterious region of northern Italy and wants to show William the rock carvings for which this alpine valley is famous.
This place is massive.
Yeah, it's very big and the rock art covers all that area. Are you ready for a hike?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm here at Valcamonica because it is a treasure trove of images from the ancient world that have been well documented and studied by scholars. They don't agree on the meaning of the images, but some of them are very open-minded to the ancient astronaut theory.
This is one of the rock art sites here in Valcamonica.
Footprints.
Footprints there.
Wow.
You can see here,
Look like deer.
we have warriors.
Look at this. Incredible.
Thousands and thousands of figures on the rocks. Here we are.
Wow.
What we have here? We have this one, this figure,
Oh, look at that.
the spaceman.
Spaceman, exactly. Look at the helmet.
astronaut. Look at the helmet.
Right. It's like he's glowing.
Yeah. And the communion rose.
The communion rose.
It's a strange and mysterious symbol with 9 dots. Was made probably of the first millennium before Christ.
Wow.
We have 19 communion roses in Valcamonica.
19 communion
Yeah.
roses.
Archaeologists call this mysterious object the communion rose because of its flower-like shape. While its exact meaning is lost to history, some believe it to be a religious symbol or a representation of the movement of the stars. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest it might also depict something else, the vessel that brought these helmeted figures to Valcamonica.
Look at that. That looks like a spaceship. It's like you'd look up in the sky and you would see this kind of twirling, spinning ship in the sky. It seems to me, just looking at it, they're trying to talk about beings coming from other worlds, maybe to this place.
It could be an interpretation.
Tell me about that 5-pointed star.
We have a lot of 5-point stars here on this rock, but we don't know what they meaning when they did this particular geometric shape.
Sometimes the stars mean energy, like energy from the stars would come to this place, where star beings would come to this place.
Yeah, it could be an interpretation. We have a lot of mystery about the meaning of the engraving here in Valcamonica. We have a different motivation, religious, mythological, and also describing events.
Okay.
So
this is like a newspaper then. It says this was in the sky above us at some point, and this spaceman came down and maybe met the communion people.
it could be.
According to the ancient stories of the Susa Valley, the city of Turin was founded by a character from Greek mythology called Phaeton, who came to Earth from the stars.
Legend states that Turin was founded by the god Phaeton, who is a son of the sun god Helios. And in the myth of Phaeton, we learn the story of how he descended to Earth in a fiery chariot, perhaps crashing into Mount Mussini.
This also led to something fortuitous because he brought gifts to this place. He had great skills, was a metallurgist, and taught this to the local people.
When we look at myths such as the myth of Phaeton, here is really the story of a UFO landing on a mountain and interacting with the locals.
When we look behind this myth of Phaeton, perhaps this is what we're also seeing at Valcamonica. I think given the connection with the spacemen that are etched into the rock, that we have to be open to the possibility that what the ancient artist is trying to portray is something that he actually saw in the sky, something coming out of the heavens.
Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Deep in the Brisbane Water National Park is a mysterious site known as the Gosford Glyphs. The site consists of 2 massive 8-foot-high walls engraved with over 300 ancient carvings. Carvings that experts say do not resemble indigenous artwork, but Egyptian hieroglyphs. After deciphering the texts, 21st century Egyptologist Raymond Johnson believed them to reveal the burial site of Lord Nefertiru, a member of the Egyptian royal family, who died while visiting the area with his brother sometime between 2637 to 2614 BC.
Absolutely beautiful out here.
I know.
While visiting the area in 2016, Georgios Tsoukalos met with local ancient astronaut theorist Evan Strong to get a first-hand look at these enigmatic carvings.
Wow! That's incredible. I had no idea. I mean, this looks totally different than on pictures. So what do these hieroglyphs say?
Well, at least one panel talks about two brothers, two princes, coming here from Egypt. They were shipwrecked. One of them ended up getting bitten by a snake. He then died. The theory is then he was interred here, and that's why you've got hieroglyphs here, because he died here. But there's these other walls with a mixture of symbols. This one over here, it's more of a philosophical astrophysics style thing with symbols meaning all sorts of esoteric stuff. So
now, have these symbols at all been interpreted by Egyptologists?
There've been a few, actually. A few different people have done that.
What was their reaction?
Well, Raymond Johnson was one of the first people to come here and translate. He actually sent some of his translations off to the Cairo Library, and Dr. Abu Dia Ghazi ended up saying, yep, you're on the right track. Something called Proto-Egyptian.
And how old do you reckon these are?
We're thinking, because of the prevalence, at least in one panel of Proto-Egyptian, that it's about 4,600 years old.
Wow. Are there any hieroglyphs that stand out to you?
Yeah, definitely. Follow me down here, and I'll show you this other one. So this one here, we call the UFO glyph, and people have called that since they've been coming here because it kind of looks like a UFO.
It definitely has the classic UFO shape. It's got the rays or whatever you want to call it. What would you suggest if anyone says, well, this is not a UFO, it's some other symbol, but certainly not that?
I think someone suggested it's jewelry, but it's a completely different symbol that's upside down, and it really doesn't quite fit in. It's one of those symbols here that doesn't fit into the canon.
In your opinion, why do you think the Egyptians made it all the way to Australia?
I think they were looking for esoteric wisdom, definitely.
From the Aboriginals?
Yes.
The ancient Egyptians, we have stories and Aboriginal stories about their arrival and about their visits long before Europeans had arrived here. Naturally, we would have shared ceremony with these people because they have the same similar beliefs as our people. Egyptians have that same spiritual connection to the sky world.
Many stories from all over this continent, not just from here, but all over this continent, talk about those who came by the sea and came to these continents, and some of our knowledge and wisdom and technology went back with them. And if you do some of the research in the last pyramids that they found boomerangs made from iron bark from here. And they have hieroglyphs of blackfellas throwing the boomerangs to take out the ducks and the geese. Now, the question would be, why would they paint us and carve us on their walls if they didn't come here? And if that meeting and relationship was not significant, they wouldn't have carved it. It must have been significant in order to carve.
London, England. Housed here in the British Library is Leonardo da Vinci's Codex Arundel, a collection of 283 papers containing drawings, inventions, thoughts, and writings covering numerous scientific and creative disciplines.
Leonardo is quite well documented compared with most artists of the time. We've got thousands and thousands of pages of writing which tell us a lot about what he's thinking about, but there's almost no personal record, interestingly. Leonardo is quite a private figure in that respect.
Found among Leonardo's papers were a few personal anecdotes, composed just after his 2-year disappearance between 1476 and 1478. In one account, the artist details his youthful adventure encountering a vast, mysterious cave.
He describes being on the edge of this dark cave and saying that he felt terrified by the darkness of that cave and what might be within it. On the other hand, he felt a certain desire to try to understand what was in there.
Some have speculated that this incident occurred around the same time in his childhood as when he fashioned his famous shield with the head of the monstrous Medusa on it. So the question is, what exactly did Leonardo find in this cave? We can assume that this was a very significant event in his life because it made a strong enough impression on him to write it down as one of the few autobiographical notes he ever made.
Why did Leonardo da Vinci, a man who wrote almost nothing of his personal life, choose to write about this cave as one of the first entries in his journal? And why was his experience with the cave so important to him? Some ancient astronaut theorists believe that several of the artist's paintings and drawings provide evidence that Da Vinci may have had an extraterrestrial encounter.
One of the things that we see in the grotesque heads is a fairly marked departure from the natural appearance of the human body, the human face, even in its most extreme manifestation.
Visually, the works are so compelling. They're often slightly creepy. They've got a very strange presence to them.
They are misshapen faces, elongated skulls, flattened faces. Very eerie, troubling, monstrous images. Now, this is an artist known for careful, realistic depiction of what he was looking at. Which raises the question, what in the world was he looking at? Did he actually encounter creatures that looked like this? They're very, very strange.